Good morning, Olive Branch family, and welcome to our online service. My name is Jeremiah. I'm the Youth and Young Adults Pastor here at the Olive Branch. So glad that you're able to join us. Just to highlight a couple of things that are happening at the church, this Wednesday, November 9th, we're having a worship night. 1 hour only in person here at the Olive Branch. We want to extend an invitation for you to join us. It's going to be an awesome time. As well as we want to invite you, if you are in the area or in the GTA, come and join us in person. We are always having a service every Sunday at 10 a.m. It's an amazing time when we connect together and be able to build community every Sunday. So definitely make sure that you make your way down here. But before we go into a new series, which Pastor Ken's going to be starting off today, we're going to have our worship team lead us in worship. So let's give adoration to God and have an amazing Sunday. God bless.
Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship His holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. I'll worship Your holy name. Sun comes up, it's a new day dawning. It's time to sing Your song again. Whatever may pass and whatever lies before me, let me be singing when the evening comes. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship His holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. I'll worship Your holy name. You're rich in love and You're slow to anger. Your name is great and Your heart is kind. With all Your goodness I will keep on singing. 10,000 reasons for my heart to find. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship His holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. I'll worship Your holy name. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship His holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. I'll worship Your holy name. And on that day when my strength is failing, the end draws near and my time has come. Still my soul will sing Your praise unending. 10,000 years and forevermore. Bless the Lord, oh my soul,
Thanks so much for worship. Today, we start a new series of talks called About Your Friends. You need them, they need you. Now, you're thinking, okay, this is no-brainer. I understand that. I get that and so on. But I'll tell you, we're moving right now out of a pandemic that has affected a lot of people, sent some people into isolation. And so we're going to be talking about just some of the dynamics about what it means to actually build into your friendship quotient and to build this part of your life, because it's so very important. Now, most of us are still kind of assessing the effect that COVID has had on us. It's had an effect on our job. It's had an effect on our finances. If you were to raise your hand, you would say, yep, it's affected my finances. It's affected, just about our mental health, just about every arena of life. One of the surprising things that I certainly didn't anticipate, and maybe you didn't anticipate, is that it's had a direct effect on friendships. Like, in the process of this 2.5 year process, I lost friends. Maybe you did too. I got unfriended, I guess would be the best word for it, and so on. So, and I'm guessing that that's true of you. It has been divisive, it's gotten ugly, and there's kind of an equation that goes with that, and that is that fear equals anger equals division and sometimes isolation. And so my point in this series of talks is not a very long one, but it's basically just moving away from isolation and building into this friendship quotient of our lives again. Now, friendships are the most healthy thing that you can invest in. And this is ironic because to some extent, the whole health crisis has been about kind of moving away from people because, they breathe on us, they contaminate us, they give us germs, they give us COVID, and so on. So we've been moving away from people for health's sake. What's interesting is that being away from friends, being isolated, also has a direct impact on your friendship quotient. And so we actually need to talk about that. I used to listen to an old song. Some of you may remember. This is like from the way long ago past and so on. And that is a lifetime's not too long to live with friends. In other words, you can go through life and you can find a way to, reason to break up friendships. But, you want to have friends. You want to build friendships and not lose too many of them in your life. So before we leave 2022 in the rearview mirror, I'd like to have just a few conversations about friendship, okay? More particularly about what it means to live with what you could call relational intelligence. You're going to hear this quite a bit. Relational intelligence, and it is definitely connected with the book that was written by Daniel Goleman called Emotional Intelligence. Now, our calling as humans is to love. Jesus, when he came, he said, you can summarize everything with the word love. Love God, love other people. Did you know that God, though, is not just interested that we love other people and love him, that he's interested in your friendships? He is a God who created us in his image. He wants us as his friends. He wants to be in a relationship of love with us. And he's interested in all of our relationships, our whole relational world. And he wants it to be healthy because, you see, he wants our friends to be his friends if possible. And he works along that line. So, you have to understand, I'm going to be talking about relational IQ, and Jesus never used that term, okay? I understand that. But he did talk about love a lot. And because this whole arena is connected with our spiritual health, we absolutely need to talk about it. And also, it's also included in the mission that Jesus gave us, which is to reach out to our friends. So in 1995, a guy by the name of Daniel Goleman came out with a book called Emotional Intelligence. Now, what he brought out in this book is very, very interesting because, you see, up until then, people had thought that, your success in life was pretty much related to your IQ, and some of you would like to think, okay, I got an IQ of 140, 150, 170, 220. I don't know what your IQ is. So the core statement for this whole series is your emotional or relational IQ is way more important than your intelligence quotient. Now, I know that kind of goes against just some of what people have thought all their lives, but if you're a follower of Jesus, that really shouldn't surprise you because Jesus, again, talked about love, 2,000 years before Daniel Goleman wrote his book, Jesus said that love is the most important thing that you will ever do. And he talked a lot about that in the Sermon on the Mount, the greatest message he ever preached. I went down through this and I came up with 5 pages of notes about how this relates to relational intelligence. Almost every verse in the Sermon on the Mount talks about relational intelligence with people or relational intelligence with God. Now, our problem is that relationships are messy and sometimes really difficult. I mean, people contradict us and they throw garbage on our lawns, make rude gestures at us when we cut them off, and they betray us, they cheat us, they cheat on us, and sometimes they break our hearts. We hold out our heart and sometimes people slap it out of our hands and step on it. The other side of this that we all know is that friendships are one of the most meaningful things in our lives. Friends make us laugh till we cry. We want to experience things with our friends. We're anxious to show new things that we have to our friends because our friendship circle brings so much meaning. Now, the problem is when we enter the world, our parents love us unconditionally. They think we're wonderful and so on, but they don't prepare us for the fact that, when we go to kindergarten, we're so excited to see all these kids there, they may vote you off the island. You don't know, okay? I mean, who tells you when you move into your teens that other teenagers might use you and then when they get what they want, throw you away? Who tells you when you move into marriage that as exciting as it is and profound as it is, that person will sometimes be the most annoying person on the planet? We just are not prepared for some of the trouble that this brings in our lives. See, in your high school years and university years, your professor likely, implies that your GPA and your IQ are the most important part of your life, that they're the most important cue to whether or not you'll be successful. What they don't tell you is that your IQ has almost no relationship to your success in life and your success as a person. So love and learning how to love God, learning how to love others is the biggest deal in life. And so we're going to just kind of focus in on that over these next weeks. Let me read how Jesus put it. You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. A second is equally important. Love your neighbor as yourself. The entire law and the demands of the prophets are all based on these 2 commands. Now that makes sense, doesn't it? Is it possible to, love God and love others, like Jesus is talking about here, and not know how to build relationships? No, it's not. You have to have a relationship to love. Now, when you look at the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus starts by blessing all kinds of people. And he's basically saying, these are happy people. These are the people who are not self-important. These are the people who know how to show mercy. These are the people who long more than anything to do the right thing. These are the people that you can trust because their motives are not screwed up and wrapped around themselves, These kind of people are the salt and light of the earth. In other words, they make a difference wherever they show up. They're good news wherever they come. He says that relationally healthy people keep their anger in control. So he talks about some of the relationally destructive things that go on. And if you've ever known somebody or been related to somebody or had somebody in your home or been married to somebody who doesn't have their anger under control, you understand how bad that can be and how it rips relationships apart. And he talks about the fact that people who are relationally whole, they know how to keep their promises. They keep their promise. They don't use people and throw them away. Jesus also talked about relational intelligence with God. He says, prayer is not a way of pointing a big finger at yourself about how spiritual you are. He says, that's relationally dumb to do. Relationally dumb when it comes to God and when it comes to other people. Who do you think doesn't see through that? God sees through that. Prayer is not magic to get what you want from God. Prayer is about a relationship with God. It's about relational intelligence with God. He says you need to trust God that he's going to be faithful because relational intelligence is about learning how to trust people and about building relationships with people that you can trust. And relational intelligence with God is understanding he's the most trustworthy person in the universe. Now, I have about 5 pages of notes about all these details and so on. Would you like me to give them to you? Because I could read down through them. But I'm not going to do that, okay? Here's what I know from studying Jesus. Jesus was the most relationally intelligent person who ever lived. And if you watch his life, you watch him building relationship after relationship after relationship. And he changed life on this planet through the relationships with the 12 people that he invested his life in. And they went out and they changed the world through the people that they invested their lives in. It was infectious, and it was a movement of love and relational intelligence. Now, tuck this away because we're going to talk about it in a future message. But Jesus wants to build his circle of friends through the people like us who are already his friends. So he is interested in your relational circle. He's interested in you living in relationally intelligent ways and not junking up, your relational world with stuff that destroys relationships. And what Jesus said in his teaching on love is this, okay? And this is really important because relationally intelligent people understand this. People are more important than anything else. People are more important than money. People are more important than climbing the ladder of success. People are important. And that concept has been difficult to live out in these last couple of years because we've been told, and again, I understand the dynamics behind this, that people, if you get close to people, they'll infect you, they could possibly kill you, that being close to people, you can put it like this, is almost like a death wish, that you might get killed and you might kill other people off in your family. So coming out of that is not just, we're just not going to I think, automatically just kind of come out of it. And it's true. People are slowly pulling out of this, okay? Now we have to figure out how we're going to build relationally intelligent lives after being told that, you need to stay away from people. Now we know that that's not true ultimately in the ultimate sense. I mean, the Old Testament talks about being cautious and talks about being cautious about diseases and kind of came up with the whole idea of quarantining and so on. But there was always a time limit on it. You come out of the quarantine. You don't stay that way forever. And so that's our challenge at this point. Now, why is that important, okay? Well, I think it's a no-brainer, right? It's important because relationships are important to us and they're important to God. His kingdom is about being with people. That's the whole point of, being in his kingdom forever, is you're going to be with people forever. You're going to be with God forever. And so you want to know how to build relationally intelligent relationships here, okay? Now, Ed Hallowell is a senior lecturer at Harvard Medical School, and in his recent book, Connect, he basically puts out that the two most powerful experiences in life are achieving and connecting. And sometimes what happens when we get on the whole IQ side of this, that we think that achieving is going to get us where we need to go. And he writes this: most of what grabs our attention and commands our energy and compels our help falls into these two categories, and it's true. Connecting has to do with our relational world, things like falling in love and forming a deep friendship and hearing words of affection and affirmation from a parent or a child. That's connecting. Achieving has to do with the world of our accomplishments, winning a contest, pursuing a successful career, realizing a difficult goal. And what he points out in this book is that more and more our world has focused on achieving and become obsessed with achieving. And so this is kind of what it looks like. Say, and I just chose these dates arbitrarily, but from 1950 to 2022 in North America, connecting has gone down, even though we have more devices than ever to connect, and achieving has gone up. And sometimes this is the focus we get our kids. We tell our kids, achieve, 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 learn, 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 as if IQ and achievement is going to build a successful life for them, and it's just not true. Because building a successful life has to do with relationally intelligence. Now, here's what I know based on what Jesus said and after watching and working with people for 40 years. I have never known anybody, who failed at relationships and was isolated and lonely and cut off and unconnected, who lived a meaningful and fulfilled life. And if you know somebody like that, let me know, because I've never met a person. The other side of this is I have never met a person who succeeded at relationships, who had great friends, who knew how to give themselves to their family and became a master at giving and receiving love from God and others, who had a bad life. Have you? Our relational world is connected with living a meaningful life. Relationships are not accessories to life. They are life. Learning how to love is the most important thing that you and I will ever do. People who have close friends that they laugh with and cry with don't just enjoy life better. They are healthy as well. See, we live in a world that's obsessed with health, and so we exercise and run and do all these things and so on. But do you understand how important having friends, connecting with others, and relational intelligence is to your health? I did a study years ago, this was a long time ago, of 7,000 people from Alameda County in California over a 9-year period of life. This is like comprehensive by any standard that you want to measure it from. And this guy who did the study found out that relationally isolated people were 3 times more likely to die than people who had strong friendships. And this is like including people who had bad habits, like smoking and overeating and misuse of alcohol. But if they had strong relationships with other people, they lived significantly longer lives than people who ate healthy but were relationally isolated. Somebody put it like this. This is why I have this up here. He says, it's better to eat Twinkies with friends than to eat broccoli alone. Friendships build relational health and physical health into our lives. Let me take this a step further. Jesus said, that love doesn't just build relationships, that love is the most important thing that you will do. And it's reflected in how we were created. When you read back to the very beginning, and you may struggle with this count because you may not think it's true, but let's just kind of accept the fact that maybe you do at this particular juncture, or at least for the purposes of what we're going to be talking about, okay? There's a pattern when you go through the whole account of a creation, and it goes something like this, God, made the universe and said, it's good, okay? God made the sky and the air, and it's good. God made, stars, and it's good, and God made water and dirt, and it's good. And God made trees and veggies, and it's good. God made fish and whales, and it's good. God made snakes and bugs. Okay, we hesitated a little bit on this one and said that it was good, okay? And then the cadence is broken. It says God made man. And the evaluation was, it's not good. Now, the question is why? Is it because God, likes women better than men, No, that would be theologically incorrect. Aloneness was the issue. Because God is a relational God. And He made us in His image as relational beings. And it's really interesting when you look at when He actually says this, because this was before we'd even fallen away. Blaise Pascal, the 17th century philosopher, he said that at the very core of every human being, he says there's a God-shaped vacuum. Well, apparently, there's a human-shaped vacuum too, because we were made for a relationship with other people. Achieving is fun. It's exhilarating. But I'm telling you, if you go through life without having that part of you, that relational part of you filled, it's going to be a very difficult life. And this, even if you're an introvert, you need friends. You want friends. Being an introvert and an extrovert is a matter of, how many friends you have. Introverts are happy with 2, and extroverts, you can't have enough friends. I've already mentioned Daniel Goleman, in his book, Emotional Intelligence. In his research on all this really started a lot of different things that happened. They tracked, actually, I'll tell you how they came to the conclusions that they did. They tracked Harvard graduates. So these people are already high achievers, They already have high IQs typically, and they tracked them into middle age. And what they found after tracking all these people was that their success in life and the meaning that they found in life was directly related to their emotional intelligence and not their IQ, which wasn't what they expected. Now, emotional intelligence, let's just kind of go through this. It's the ability to actually manage your emotions and not be overwhelmed by them. Emotional intelligence is warmth. It's the ability to connect with people, to show empathy, to understand what they're going through. It's the ability to read people. Like when you're talking to them, you can read by their body language what's actually going on. And it's also the ability of a person to navigate difficult relational situations. So we've all been there. We've all understand what that means and so on. But when they track these people, the people who did best in life, the people who were most successful, were the people who were able to do these things. Now, this is just kind of a shortened summation of it. I would encourage you to read the book. It's about 300 pages long. It'll be really good reading for you. But there's a movie that illustrates this brilliantly. Some of you can remember it probably. And the movie's title is Forrest Gump. Remember Forrest? Played by Tom Hanks, you know? So Forrest is not exactly the sharpest knife in the drawer. You know, he's kind of the brunt of just about everybody's jokes and so on. You know, he kind of goes around quoting his mama. Mama said, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get, you know? And yet, what you see in him is that his IQ is kind of a little bit below normal, you know, in terms of that. But he knows how to be a loving and loyal friend, and he succeeds at life. One of the most powerful scenes is when this girl that he has loved all of his life, Jenny, you know, and she rejects him. And he makes this statement. He says, I may not be very smart, but I know how to love. And that's kind of summarizes the whole thing. How's your relational IQ? What's it like? Let me just throw out a couple of situations. These are kind of I'm a little bit joking here and so on, but I thought you might be interested in, these aren't original with me. So the first situation is, you know, you're describing in intimate detail, you know, all about your childhood and all the things that have, you know, affected you throughout your life, you know, to a person who's actually more of a stranger than anything else. And you notice their eyes kind of glazing over as you're talking on and on and on and on, you know. And you see them trying to inch away from you and trying to, you know, averting your eyes and stuff like this. You can see, if you're an emotionally intelligent person, you can see that they're trying to leave. So what do? Answer number one, you grab them by the arm so they can't get away, and they have to stay there and listen to the whole thing. Number two, you get really close to their face, because if you get close enough where people can actually smell your breath, you know, they're more likely to stay. Number three, you look for another listener that's a little bit more vulnerable and that you can trap in your net until you say your whole thing. So you probably know that none of those are actual situations, and none of them would actually work, okay? Second situation, you want to build some life-giving relationships, soul-satisfying relationships in your life. So where do you go to do that? How about a singles bar? Maybe not. Or maybe you go on a dating website and you're saying, you know, warm, you know, 30-something woman looking for an intelligent 30-something man to spend my life with. You know, is that a good place to do it? Well, some people do, but not a very good place because you don't know, okay? Or you wait at home. Like you post all your photographs of your amazing life on Instagram, and then you wait for somebody to call you and want to hook up with you or connect with you. I know that none of these situations are actually good ones, and yet some people do them every day of their lives, okay? Now, here's the problem with my IQ. My IQ, it ain't going to change. It is what it is, and I can read books, and I can study, and I can, you know, do all the things that they tell you on TV to do. But I'm telling you, my IQ is not going to grow. The good news is that you can grow in your relational IQ, the most important part of your life. You can grow. Now, God wants to do that. He sent His Spirit to come and live in us and build the fruit of the Spirit into our lives. The things that make us relationally intelligent, like love and joy and peace and patience. Man, being patient, that's huge when it comes to relationship. And kind and good. So all of these factors all these things that He wants to build into our lives, He will help us do that. We have to cooperate. And cooperation sometimes is difficult, you know. The Bible, in overall, the whole thing says a lot about relational intelligence. It really does. I mean, if you read all the red letters of the New Testament, you know, where it's what Jesus taught and so on, it's just relationally brilliant. Book of Proverbs, I mean, that's worth a read. It's got all kinds of things about what it means to live a relationally intelligent life and how to not do relationally stupid things. There's a lot of stuff out there. There's how-tos, you know, in the Bible about how to do this. Now, in our world system we live in, there's some out there too, but a lot of it has to do with how to, you know, build a glittery life, how to be a success, you know, how to be desirable, how to be attractive, and so on. So there's lots of stuff out there on how to achieve. But in closing, I want to talk about how we build relationally intelligent lives and talk about the habits of relationally intelligent people, the three critical decisions that we have to make. And the first one is really a no-brainer, okay? You have to make time for it. It's not going to just happen, as you kind of cruise through life, People who are relationally intelligent, they invest large chunks of time to developing their relationships. That whatever else they have going on, whatever commitments that they have, no matter how busy life gets, relationships are going to get the time and the priority that's necessary. Jesus said that love, as I mentioned, wraps up everything that God expects of us. Right before his brilliant definition of love in the book of 1 Corinthians that Paul wrote, he says this. He says that, you can do all kinds of spiritually profound things. Like in terms of, the messages that you give and miracles and just all kinds. You can do all of that. But he says, if you don't love, if nobody understands that you are a loving person or sees that you're a loving person through your life, he says, you've lost the plot. You're nothing if you do that. Is it possible to love your neighbor as yourself and not make time to do it? You can't do that, can you? You can't possibly do that. You have to build a relationship. And if Jesus said that love is the most important thing, if in his last parables before he left this planet, he said that, love is not just on the final exam, love is the final exam. I would think we ought to make time for that if we've got only one life to live. Here's what I know. Every single person here wants to be deeply connected with somebody. You want somebody who knows that you live. He knows somebody who will check in on you, somebody who will miss you if you're not there. Everybody wants that. But for that to actually happen, we have to make time for it. We have to make time for it. And the problem is that we are too doggone busy achieving sometimes to make time for the thing that will make us more successful and more fulfilled in life than anything else, which is our relational world. People with high relational intelligence, they know that you can't microwave friendships. You can't just walk in and meet somebody and immediately have this intimacy with them because it takes some time to build trust. It takes time to do this. You can't be glad for other people in a hurry. You can't listen to the difficulties of other people in a hurry. It takes time. And relationally intelligent people know that it will take more than just time to build relationships. It also takes grace. It takes patience. Because people can be difficult. See, there's only one kind of person out there, and that's a broken, imperfect person. Those are the only kind of people that you can build a relationship with. In his book, Everybody's Normal Till You Get to Know Them, John Ortberg says that he once saw a magazine at a supermarket counter and had the headline that read, "Totally normal women who stalk their ex-boyfriends." Now, the shocking part of that is not women stalking their ex-boyfriends, although that is kind of shocking, but it's totally normal women. Because there are no totally normal people out there. We're all broken. And we're all weird, so you just maybe need to affirm that to the person who's listening to this, with you today and just say, you're weird. I'm weird. We're all weird. And it's kind of a mass confession. And you're going to have to build a relationship with a broken person because that's all that are there. It's really strange. We get all intentional about our jobs, and our doctor's appointments and exercise and meals and stuff like that. But sometimes when it comes to the single most important part of our lives, we just don't schedule it in. So if you want to live a relationally full life, you've got to make time for it. You have to build time for it. It's not like it's going to just magically appear. You have to make it. Second thing is you have to risk rejection. And that's the biggest fear in our lives, isn't it? It's the biggest fear in our lives. The biggest obstacle toward building new relationships and becoming vulnerable with somebody else. I say the word vulnerable, and some of you already got shivers because, you think if I make myself vulnerable, maybe they'll take advantage of me, And we always have this question we ask, well, what if I don't accept it? What if I invite them to come over and they won't come over? What if they don't think that my job is good enough or they don't like my clothes or my hair or something about me, Well, that kind of gets beyond the whole thing of friendship because friendship is friendship despite some of that stuff. When we're in kindergarten or grade 1, we don't even think about that. It's like, do you like me? Will you be my friend? We kind of cruise right through that. But sometimes when it comes to actually telling people in our world that we need them and we long for their affection and for their friendship, we're a little bit too chicken to do that. You can be an adrenaline junkie. You can be somebody who's a bungee jumping, skydiving kind of person. And yet you can chicken out when it comes to the most important area of your life, and you won't take the risk. to get to know somebody and risk rejection. Here's the deal, okay? There is no safe, easy, efficient way to build a good relationship, a strong relationship. It's risky. You know, it's not like if you're going to get hurt, you will get hurt if you build relationships with people. And you can't do this and kind of squeeze this into the spare time of your life. But if you don't risk yourself, if you don't make yourself vulnerable, you'll never know love, because that's what love is, okay? And then the third decision, relationally intelligent people don't just hope that this will someday happen to them. They take the initiative to make it happen. Now, years ago in this little town that I served in, this little church that I served in, a woman by the name of Elaine, she once made the statement, this is the most unfriendly church I've ever seen. Now, she'd been there most of her life, because she'd been there for a really long time. But I watched her, and so she'd come into the service, and it was a fairly small auditorium, so it wasn't too hard to miss. She'd come in, and she would fold her hands, and she'd look straight ahead, almost daring people to be friends with her. And then when, the service was over, sang the last song, man, it was like it was David Copperfield, poof, she was gone, I thought, well, how are you ever going to build friends if you're gone when you have the chance to connect? And you see, this reflects this thing, that sometimes happens about taking the initiative. People think, well, why should I always have to be the one who invites people into my home? Why should I always have to be the one that sends the text or sends the letter or makes the call, Let somebody else call me first. Well, relationally intelligent people understand that if you want to move away from relational starvation, you have to move toward the food, the relational food. You have to make the first move. I mean, who wouldn't like to have, all these people come along, oh, please be my friend, grabbing for arm, please be my friend. I'd love to be good friends with you. I'm President of the United States. I'd love to be good friends with you. I'm Prime Minister of Canada. I'd love to be good friends with you. People, who say and mean, call me anytime, day or night, you just call me and I'll be there for you. People who never borrow money, people who always show up on time. They're never too late, they're never too early. And when they ask you to do things, they're things that you love to do, that you'd give your life to do. But that won't happen. The truth is that intimacy, close friendship, has a price tag, and it's being willing to make the commitment to give up my time, to inconvenience myself, to honor somebody else's secrets when I would rather not, and to take the risks to build a relationship. Now, we can't make deep relationships with everyone. That's just not going to happen, okay? But we can invest the time. We can face our fear of being rejected and make the first move anyways. We can get involved in a life group and so on, where there's a number of people that we can become friends with. We can hear and learn truth about ourselves that sometimes puts people off. Sometimes we're so defensive that we just can't hear what's actually pushing people away. We need to be able to hear that stuff. What you need to know and believe is that it's worth it. It's worth it. It's what you were created for. And it's something that will fill up your heart way more than any accomplishment or any achievement or success that comes your way. And I know that because you see, relationships last forever. They do. They do. There's another side to this life where our relational world continues. And my question is, will you do it? Will you make time for it? Will you take the risk? Will you risk rejection? Will you take the initiative to build friendships in your life? Most amazing fact of history, it's really hard for a lot of people to believe, and that is that God has done that for us. God made the time for us. God showed up on this planet in His Son Jesus. Jesus said, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. He showed up here in Jesus to make that happen. And He risked rejection. He was rejected. Nailed to a cross, spit on, declared to be a failure. He took the initiative to make that happen. And see, again, this is so hard to understand and so hard sometimes to believe, is that He extends His hand to you. He is the one who's taken the initiative, and He says, I want you to be my friend. I want to have a relationship with you. And we either turn away, go someplace else, make imply that money or achievement or something else is more important than that, or we don't believe, we won't trust. But he's made the first move. But you have to extend your hand. You have to say, I want to be your friend. I want to be your friend. You tell me the truth that will help me to do that. I want to think about your friendships for just a little bit this morning. See, life is fragile. Like sometimes we go through life, we think, well, this is really important, so I'm going to do this first. And if I have time, I'll do this later. See, we don't know what's going to happen in our lives. Stuff happens. It does. You and I both know that. So I want to encourage you to work on your relational intelligence this week. Make some time for it. Maybe you want to take somebody from your family or take a friend out for lunch and buy them something that they want to eat, that they like to eat, and just listen. Listen to what's going on. Relationally intelligence, to listen. Some of you have been fighting with somebody in your life, and you've got this, World War III going on in your home or in your relational world, and I just want to encourage you, man, make peace. Let it go. Sometimes the most relationally intelligent thing that you can do is to forgive somebody and to actually initiate peace. Why don't you do that this week? And if you've never done this before, why don't you, in some quiet place, get down on your knees at some point this week and say to God, would you be my friend? Would you be my friend? And I can guarantee you what his answer will be. He will be. He longs for your friendship. Let's pray. I want to thank you, God, that you have initiated friendship in our lives, that you have reached out to us in our desperation. You've accepted us when we were unacceptable. You've loved us, God, when we were unlovable. And you have, in your love and in your compassion, because you are a relational God, you have reached out to us and loved us. I pray that you will give us the relational intelligence to reach out to you and to reach out to other people. Amen. We're going to sing together, worship together, and then when we come back, I want to send you off.
I love you, Lord. Oh, your mercy never fails me. All my days I've been held in your hands. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God.
The King of my heart be the mountain where I run, the fountain I drink from. Oh, he is my song. Let the King of my heart be the shadow where I hide, the ransom for my life. Oh, he is my song. You are good, good. Oh, you are good, good. Oh, I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God.
Your goodness is running after me. Your goodness is running after me. You are good, you're good. Oh, you are good,
So may God bless your life with friends, deep friends, close friends. Fill up that reservoir that's down in the core of your heart, that human-spaced reservoir that he has created for friends. May he give you the wisdom to pursue it. May he give you the courage to take the risks necessary. And may he give you what you need to inconvenience yourself and to take the initiative to build what you want most and need most in your life. Amen.